Okay, I want to give you a little bit of taste of the Hitachi Visualization Suite. We have a demo environment set up here, and I've already logged into the application. You'll notice that I'm actually using Safari on a Mac. One thing of note here is that Hitachi Visualization Suite, since it is a thin client that runs in the cloud, you can actually use other platforms such as a MacBook or even a Surface Pro. We support pretty much every modern browser from Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, and Safari as well. So we have a demo environment here, and I'm just going to walk through some of the key features. So what you're looking at when you first log in is a map. Now it will save your view based on your user preferences. So whatever your last view was, that's pretty much where you start back up when you log back in the next time. The way we define a particular application, because Hitachi Visualization Suite is a multi-tenant application running in the cloud, we actually create a single environment called a domain for a particular customer deployment. The domain is defined by really three things. So you can think of it as a three-legged stool. We have objects that you see here at the top, and these are your real-world things that you're modeling. These could be objects that are at rest, or they could be moving, like a car. You also have your second leg of the stool, which are events, and this is typically your private data sources that you're ingesting using the Hitachi Visualization Platform Gateway device that's installed on premise. So you can see here for our demo environment, we have 4 event sources set up. One is CAD, or computer-aided dispatch. That's your 911 center calls, commonly referred to as an incident. You have gunshots. In this environment, we have a gunshot sensor system, as well as license plate reads, or LPR, and even social media, Twitter, which keys off an administrator settings for specific keywords. Now, the third leg of the stool are layers, and these are things that you just pretty much lay over top of the map. They typically don't have user interaction, but they provide additional information depending on how you want to view your application. So for instance, my default here is Google Terrain. If I wanted to see traffic in this city, I could just click on the Google Traffic map. I could also get an aerial as an example. It can even overlay weather radar, live imagery radar as well. So the layers are really customizable. So let me come back up here. I'm going to start with the objects, and I'm going to click on the most common thing, which are cameras. And we have a few cameras laid out within the city. The nice thing about this is that it's color-coded, so when I click on a particular object, like cameras, the blue indicates the blue icon in the camera, or the representation of where that physically resides. So if I click on buildings here, you'll see the contrast, which is in green. So I can really represent, again, any object, any real-world object. We have other customers that have completely modified this set of objects that they care about. For instance, we have a customer with a ferry system, and they track where those ferries are in real time along the waterways. So if I want to view a camera, it's a very simple process. I just click on it once, and it'll start a small display. And what you'll notice is that, you actually won't notice, is that this is working off of a third-party system. So we have about 3 or 4 different source video management systems that we're actually showing you in this demonstration, but they all interact, or the user interacts with any of these in the same manner, independent of where that actual video system resides. And that's the beauty of the gateway device, which enables that. So if I wanted to know where this is, or what's the context of this, I could actually switch over here to a street view, and then I could get the context of this camera location. I can also drill down into this camera and get a larger view. I can even go back in time and play back. So we have other cameras here as well. Now where it gets interesting is that when you start correlating the custom events with the cameras. So for instance, if I wanted to see my CAD events, these are my 911 calls, I can overlay that event data on the map. Same thing with gunshot sensors. So I can start to see this visual correlation of events that are occurring alongside my stationary objects, and even Twitter feeds. So here in this case, I have a Twitter feed with someone tweeted about the police in Chinatown, a motorcade in Chinatown. It's just one example. But I could come back and you'll notice that I had some gunshot sensors, so I could drill down into one particular camera here that's close by these events that have occurred, this gunshot. And the great thing is if I want to go back in time, I can drill down and click on the Archive tab. And what you'll notice here is that it's loading the events which are nearby that camera. So for instance, this particular gunshot occurred at that time. All you do is click on that event, hit go, it'll start the playback of that camera system from that point in time, or that video stream. Okay, so I can also view other objects. The great thing about this is that, for instance, in buildings, I can load schematics. And in my schematics, then I can have my camera locations loaded or positioned within the building where that camera resides. And this is great in like a school system where you don't necessarily know where those cameras are. But just a couple clicks on that object, you can get right to where you need to be. We can also look at another type of object, a bus, and you'll notice that it exposes certain attributes of this object, like its speed, its heading, as well as the communications on the actual bus itself. And then in the bus, I can drill down, and again, I have a schematic. And so I could have the actual camera's position within that bus, so I can stream in real time. And this is a good example where our Hitachi visualization platform gateway that's ruggedized, which is built specifically for transit, could be used. We also have another, what we call complex object, called a pod. Let me remove some of these events. And the pod is interesting since it contains one or more cameras as well as the communications device. So for instance, if I wanted to know how much bandwidth I'm consuming over this LTE connection from this pod, I could quickly drill down and look at that modem to see how much monthly usage, for instance, I'm consuming, as well as the past 15 days and what my signal strength is. The great thing about the pods, though, as well, is that you can actually monitor the internal temperature of the device, as well as its power usage in watts, its internal temperature over time, and what its lowest point temperature was, as well as the input current, to see how it's operating. So I have actually the ability to go back in time. So as I'm collecting these events, I'm actually logging these over each day. So if I wanted to go back, for instance, on February the 28th, I could click on that day, and then on the map, it will show me all of those events where they occurred. I can even drill down into that particular day and view these events by the hour. So on this particular hour, at 1 p.m. on February 28th, these are all the events which have occurred within that hour time frame. I can also do a global search. So if I wanted to look for any events with the keyword Kennedy, for instance, or places. I can simply type a keyword. So here are my license plate reads on that particular street, and I can actually drill down and see that location. I can also see the gunshots of Kennedy Street, as well as the CAD events, and I can even search places with a simple keyword search. Okay, so the great thing about Hitachi Visualization is that if I can segment the application by users, so I could set up my own views for the cameras that interest me, and the great thing is I can have as many of these as I want, but they just slide out here using this typical video panel. So I can see the cameras. I can have up to 8 here that slide out. I can also set up a separate video wall. I can have up to 16 simultaneous streams. And the beauty of this is that it just simply opens up another web browser, so I can put that up on a bigger monitor, for instance, if I wanted to. In conclusion, Hitachi Visualization Suite really allows a lot of flexibility, again, in terms of the objects that you're managing, the event sources that you're consuming, as well as optional layers that can be layered on top of the application. So it really is the ideal application for improved situational awareness that cities are using today around the country and internationally. Thank you very much.